Madam Speaker, I am thrilled to be participating in the management of this debate today and want to start by thanking Chairman Baucus and thanking my friends on the other side of the aisle for the bipartisan and collaborative spirit with which we moved this legislation. This is important legislation, but the process by which it moved, I think, is something that we should celebrate. This is a time, of course, when the American people are none too happy with us, but this bill was done collaboratively with the support of the President of the United States, the majority and the minority in the House, and it will be good for our economy. So I thank the Chairman for his leadership on this, the Ranking Member, and all that participated in the creation of this important legislation. As the Chairman said, this is good stuff. It has received the support of entrepreneurs, of industry associations, of people on both sides of the aisle because it does something very, very important, which is acknowledge that regulation is always a balance. It's not always good, it's not always bad. And one of the duties of legislators and regulators is to make sure that our regulation is finely calibrated to protect us from fraud, to protect us from mortgages that blow up, to keep our air clean, to keep our water clean, but that if it's done in too ham-handed a fashion, it can compromise the vibrancy that provides so much economic opportunity in this country. Every day, this institution should be focused on finding that balance. And that's what this bill is. It's been criticized here and there by people who I think are of the mindset that any retreat, any revisiting, any amendment to our current regulatory structure is a bad idea. That can't be the right way to think about this stuff. Regulation, like anything else, has to adapt to change with the times. And what we're doing here is particularly important because we are talking about the regulation of small banks, which, let's face it, have a tough time competing against the big banks. And it's about our startup and emerging growth companies that may not have the free cash flow in their first couple of years of existence to completely adopt all of the regulation, the disclosure that we might expect of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. We have provided an on-ramp for entrepreneurs to, as they gain currency, as they increase their revenues, as they become more of a presence, and frankly, therefore, affect the lives of more people, to gradually work into the full regulatory structures of Sarbanes-Oxley and other regulation. And that's a good thing to do. Today in Palo Alto, there are companies that might not have made it but for this legislation. In Connecticut and Massachusetts, there are startup companies for which this legislation is going to make the difference between thriving, as the Chairman said, maybe being the next Microsoft or the next Google, and actually not making it. So I'm very happy that we have, in a bipartisan fashion, put forward this legislation which will be good for economic vibrancy and opportunity in this country. And again, thank the Chairman for his collaborative and thoughtful work on this bill. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman.
Thank you. As Chairman of the Financial Services Committee, I'm proud that the Jobs Act is comprised of 6 pieces of legislation that originated in our committee and received overwhelming bipartisan support. In fact, managing this bill for the minority is the gentleman from Connecticut who was the sponsor of one of those 6 bills. And I commend Mr. Himes for his work on all of these bills.